Welcome, everybody, to Youngevity. There is a new vibe in town, and it is a Youngevity vibe. We are sitting here in Sydney, Australia, with a room full of people who are committed to Dr. Wallach and his message for better health. We are really delighted to have you, Ryan, as a guest speaker, because as we talk about better health, we recognize now more than ever before, we are being bombarded from all aspects around us: mental health, fatigue, pain, even as far as our hair care, our skin care, our fragrance, even the environment around us. People are getting sicker and sicker by the day, but there is a support, there is help, there's a solution. And I know that that solution out there is Dr. Wallach and our 90 for Life. And as we do this together, you and I just want to say I'm so proud, Ryan, of you. I have been following you now for the last 6 years since I got to be a part of the Wallach Warrior family. And I really admire everything you're doing to go out there and be a voice and share this mission. I know you got your Instagram page, Wallach Warriors, and you've been able to touch people's lives by sharing, answering questions, all things Dr. Wallach. You've even gone out there and written your own book on fake diseases, which I had the honor of. I did a road trip, 10-hour road trip, and I listened to it on the road trip, which I loved. So anybody who wants to know more about better health in layman's term, it was just a really good way to understand it. I learned so much out of it. I know you got a podcast as well, and I know you've written a few other books. And so we really want to reach out to the younger people in the world. And I know you're one of the young ones in Youngevity, and you've done so much. So I recognize you. I'm honored by having you. And we've asked you to come and speak specifically, again, why you do what you do, but on mental health and how it is really attacking our younger generation and what can we do to help. So without further ado, Ryan, welcome to our call.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tracy. And thank you for inviting me. It really is an honor. And normally I'm not invited to speak about mental health, but obviously it's extremely important, especially for the younger generations. I know I see a lot of older people in the room, but I'm sure your children.
We called them we called them seasoned because they have more seasons behind us.
They're experienced. Well, it is the younger generations that have the biggest problem right now with mental health. It's something that basically every news outlet and health outlet is talking about, that the generation now, Generation Z, is the most depressed of all time. They're more depressed than the generation that actually lived in the Great Depression. They're more depressed than people who lived through both world wars. And, this doesn't seem to make sense at first glance. We have more prosperity than ever. We have more material stuff than ever. But alongside the health crisis itself, there is definitely a mental health crisis. And you may not know this about me, Tracy, but I suffered with very, very severe mental health problems. And I normally don't talk very much about it because it's normally all about physical health. So I would like to share my screen if I can. The host has disabled participant sharing.
Now. Yep, get you as a host here. Here we go. It's all yours.
Share the screen. And I don't have a PowerPoint presentation or anything, but I whipped up this little diagram here while I was preparing for this. And I think this is a pretty good outline of the main things that contribute to bad mental health. All the bad mental health stuff is up here. We've got nutrient deficiencies, which of course is our mainstay here with Youngevity. And part of the message, of course, is processed foods and poor digestion. And all this stuff works together. And I want to talk about this, but for now, I actually first want to tell my story here because I don't think I've ever told it specifically about mental health. Because usually my story is about physical health. I was born with dislocated hips. I had childhood arthritis. I had basically old man diseases when I was a little boy. So I couldn't really play. I couldn't play sports. I couldn't play basketball. I might break my hand. I once fractured my arm swinging a golf club because I hit the ground. I couldn't BMX or skateboard like my friends. I missed out on a lot of life. And of course, when you're talking about mental health, the first things you hear about are like, go outside, get sunlight, be with your friends and stuff. And I could do that, but I really couldn't do much physical. So I feel like I got my childhood stripped away from me. But I came into this business because Youngevity products fixed me extremely quickly. I was one of the best cases that you'll find out there. In less than a week, my lifelong pain. For 26 years, I was in pain. Muscle pain, back pain, neck pain, head pain, headaches, stomach aches, all kinds of pain. And within 1 week, that was all gone. I could sleep properly. Insomnia was one of my big problems. You'll notice I had sleep there on the tree. If you don't sleep properly, everything can fall apart. Well, I slept amazingly, quickly, super, super quickly. That did not fix my mental health immediately. But part of the bigger picture here is what Youngevity actually did for me. It gave me purpose, gave me purpose. And I had done meaningful work before. I actually lived there in Sydney before for 2 years. We did pretty meaningful work. I worked at the University of Sydney. I had a nice office. I had good people around me. But even in sunny Sydney, it was always dark in my mind. I had borderline personality disorder. That's what they called it. And I don't disagree with that diagnosis. I had all of the symptoms. And it was really, really, really bad. And if you don't know about borderline, it's one of the scariest mental illnesses out there because the suicide rates are so high. That's kind of the main problem there. And don't worry, this is not going to be that dark. I really just want to paint the picture of how much I have changed, how much my life has changed. And I don't attribute it all to nutrition. Nutrition was a big part of it. It's very hard to be happy when you're in pain. I was a miserable person. It's very hard to enjoy life. Many of you have probably had a headache or a stomach ache or something, and it doesn't matter if your best friend is getting married. You can't enjoy that day. That was every day for me. So getting out of the physical pain was a big step one. But being a part of something bigger than myself, something where you give to others instead of taking, it's been huge to me. And that was actually how I was supposed to end this whole thing. But I really think it's important to paint that picture before I do get a little bit dark. So the suicide rates in Australia, not all going to be about suicide, don't worry. It's about 12 per 100,000. It's a little bit higher in America, 13 per 100,000. A little bit lower in Canada, 9 per 100,000. And just for perspective, in the borderline population, it's about 1,000 times higher than that. It's about 10% of all people diagnosed with BPD commit suicide, and about 70% of them attempt suicide at one point. So that's 10,000 per 100,000. It's an incredibly high number. So when people ask about mental health, I say, yeah, I understand. Right? I had all these symptoms, the chronic feelings of emptiness, anger, impulsivity. I was crazy impulsive, super irrational decisions, reckless, fear of abandonment, unstable relationships, all kinds of stuff, paranoia. It was horrible. And I tried basically everything that books and stuff recommend. I saw psychologists and therapists and all this. I read books about borderline. I read books about depression and anxiety and narcissism. Maybe I'm a narcissist, but nobody had answers, right? They say exercise. Well, I worked at a gym for 4 years, partially because I wanted to feel better. I got in super good shape. I doubled my body weight. And I was in more pain than ever. This is before I discovered Youngevity. More pain than ever, and I was more miserable than ever. They said, get sunlight. I got tons of sunlight. I worked in the evening. I spent all day outside. And I like to spray paint for fun. You have to go outside to spray paint. Got tons of sunlight. I had good friends. I had family. I tried sobriety. Quit, I didn't drink alcohol for many, many years. Didn't do any of that bad stuff for many, many years. Sobriety didn't work. I even tried religion. I went to church every Sunday for a while. I sung, sung the hymns, and it didn't work. Didn't work. I prayed to God. Didn't work. So this didn't happen right away. But I did fix my health very, very quickly. And then slowly things began to change. I mentioned I like to do art. The first thing that changed was the art. This is before I even felt better. I still had all the symptoms of BPD, but I immediately stopped painting in black and white. I didn't even, this was not conscious or anything. I just no longer felt like painting in black and white. I suddenly felt like painting in color. It was pretty interesting. I used to do graffiti. I still do. but my style changed. It used to be aggressive. It used to be mean looking. I don't know what it was, dark, right? I became known for dark art, for political stuff and angry stuff, and I could no longer do that anymore. I didn't have those ideas anymore. Suddenly I wanted to paint things that were beautiful. And it was very, very strange to me. My whole life it had been nothing but anger, and it changed spontaneously. And after a while in this business, through the people that helped me in this business, we call them uplines, right? People who sign you up. To me, I never really thought about them as uplines. They became friends, and they genuinely became extended family. And they still are today. And when I think of my family, I have an actual very small, real family, biological, but I have this huge extended family from Youngevity. And it's not just uplines and downlines. Dracy, I consider you a friend. We're not upline, downline. We don't make money off of each other. I have plenty of friends and good people that I've met in this business, even our customers. I just can't help but feel better when I speak to them, even when they're in dire circumstances. It's a very, very strange situation. So I'm almost done with my story here, at least with mental health, but the points that stood out for me when I was trying to write this down and figure it out, how I was going to explain this was, and I felt like before I could only take from this world. I could only accept favors from people. I couldn't give anything back. And for many years, I was so poor, I literally couldn't give anything anyways. And I was poor because of my own decisions and my own attitude about everything. Part of that was the physical, and part of that was the mental, and how you think about life and stuff, and what you're involved in. But now I can give, and it feels incredible. It's still very strange. I still haven't gotten fully used to it after all these years, because I was never a person that I ever thought anybody would ever look up to or take advice from. The people who knew me as a kid, they would be blown away. What do you mean people come to you for advice for a living? People looking up to me still, it still blows my mind. And I try to be a good role model, and I think I am now. But the difference between me when I was in poor physical health and the difference in how I am now, it's absolutely night and day. And I should say too, I've already hinted at it, but physical and mental health tend to go together. They're part of the same equation. If you have a physical problem like I did, it tends to cause a mental problem. Again, it's very, very, very difficult to enjoy life when you're in pain, any kind of pain. And the more pains you got, the more miserable you tend to be. But also, if it starts with a mental problem, like it doesn't matter whether it's the chicken or the egg here. If you have a mental problem to start with, it's really hard to do the things that are good for you. You probably spend a lot of time eating junk food and watching TV instead of going outside and seeing friends and giving to others, all the stuff that makes us feel good. We stop doing that when we're mentally unhealthy. So it's very much part of the same equation. And we do see it over and over again, where people come to us primarily for a physical problem. And on their list is depression, anxiety, helplessness, hopelessness, all this stuff. Some people are purely mental, but then you ask them about their physical. We have this questionnaire here. We ask them about their physical life, and you can see physical problems on it as well, right? You can see blood sugar problems. You can see digestion problems. So it goes hand in hand, is the point I'm making here. And though the mental part is more difficult, it does require some effort. Often the physical doesn't even require effort. In my part, it was just taking a few supplements, literally 2 products. It was OsteoFX and Tangy Tangerine. Boom, fixed my problem. Hardly any effort at all. I didn't need to quit processed food. I was so poor I couldn't afford processed food anyways. So that was easy. But the mental health, it can take effort. And for me, it was mostly doing this, learning how to become somebody with a skill, something valuable to give to the world. And when almost everybody is sick, I think this is the most valuable skill in the world. We still need builders and fixers and teachers and all this stuff, engineers and designers, but all of those professions have health problems that they come to us about. And often you guys, many of you in the room would probably know, we're the end of the line for a lot of people. They've tried everything else and they're about to give up. And yet we have an answer for them that most of the time can help them. And most of the time it's not even that difficult. And then we invite them into this community. And then all of a sudden the mental health can improve as well. So that was my story.
Hmm.
But I'm sure there's more to it, but we can move on here. I wanted to touch on the things that actually cause poor mental health, in my opinion. And I was set up in a pretty bad situation to start. If you're born in pain, you don't really know what life is like without it. And I truly feel I never even lived life. And I'm not just saying this because this is a Youngevity meaning. This is real. I was not even alive until I started doing this. Got rid of the pain. All of a sudden, I didn't even know what to do with myself, right? But then getting involved in this, it really was an entirely new world. And I really do feel like an entirely new person. So when it comes to nutrients, 90 essential nutrients here, most of the list shows up when you start looking into it. You start looking into B vitamins and vitamin A. Actually, I have this cheat sheet I've been putting together for many years, just putting in a bunch of research as I come across it in books and on the internet and stuff. And I just typed in depression, saw what came up. Enzymes came up. I'm going to get back to enzymes. Vitamin A, vitamin B1, niacin, vitamin B5 or pantothenic acid. We're not going to go into full detail here because I know I don't have that much time. I just want to give an impression that many nutrients are involved in mental health. And this is research. This is studies, even animals. They can even show depression show up in animals when they take vitamin A away or they take B1 away. Animals just stop doing stuff. You can tell that they're depressed. Vitamin B6 or pyridoxine is another big one. Deficiency is known to cause depression. Biotin, folate, B12, that's a huge, huge one. Vitamin C, vitamin D, tryptophan, an amino acid. Omega-3. Dracy, I know you had that on the flyer. Omega-3, huge, huge for the brain. It's a huge part of the brain. It concentrates in the brain. And omega-3 is one of the nutrients with some of the most research about depression and mental health in general. Calcium and magnesium, those are the ones that fixed my musculoskeletal problem. I love them. Boom, they can cause depression if they're deficient. Iron's another one. Lithium, molybdenum, rubidium. We never talk about rubidium, but the deficiency can cause depression. Selenium and vitamin E, they're partners. They're usually studied together. Zinc. And this whole thing's not going to be a list, don't worry. Then I went and typed in anxiety. What else comes up? Basically the same nutrients. Enzymes, niacin, pantothenic acid, tryptophan, calcium, magnesium, selenium, vitamin E. Chromium and vanadium and zinc and magnesium, because they're all involved in blood sugar. And if you have a blood sugar problem, your mood can go up and down with your blood sugar, right? They call this manic depression or bipolar disorder. We call it a blood sugar problem. And it's usually one of the easiest things actually to rectify with our program. And of course, you guys know our program is not just nutrients. We also talk about the foods. It's very important for blood sugar. And we help tons of people get over this. And tons of people, just like my story there, they tell me the same thing. They say, honestly, not next week, but a year, 2 year, 3 year on the program, I feel like a new person is what they tell me, especially if they had a serious blood sugar problem. They can't understand why they're super irritable when they're hungry and, why they have a sip of alcohol and they freak out and yell at their family members and stuff like that. It's usually a blood sugar problem. I typed in irritability into my cheat sheet. Same things came up. Enzymes, vitamin B1, B5, B6, biotin, folate, B12, vitamin C, iron, magnesium, potassium. So basically, when we talk about the 90 essential nutrients, I know it's a catchphrase, but it really is when you start looking into them and you start looking into key things like depression or anxiety or irritability or whatever, a big part of the list comes up. Not every nutrient has been studied in that level of detail, but the main ones all come up basically. So practically any nutrient deficiency can be directly linked to a mental health problem. So to me, it still is step one in filling those things in. I don't think I could be a part of this purposeful life if I was not physically healthy, right? You need to be physically fit for this. It can be stressful to deal with people's health problems and stuff too. You need to be prepared for it. If you type in stress, all these same nutrients are depleted in stress. You need to top them up even more. The next thing on my tree there was processed foods. And of course, processed foods, just as a catchphrase there, again, we're not talking about the whole 12 bad foods. You don't need a detailed list if you just think of processed foods in general. Of course, they lack nutrients. They also lack enzymes. Remember, enzymes came up on each one of those lists there. Depression, enzyme deficiency can cause depression. Anxiety, enzyme deficiency can cause anxiety. Enzyme deficiency can cause irritability. And for the more experienced people in the room, we produce less enzymes as we get older. The enzymes actually, to me, as a distributor in this business, have been maybe even more important than the 90 essential nutrients. We start almost everybody on a digestion pack. And we have many different products that are loaded with enzymes in the Youngevity catalog. I saw my results skyrocket when I started doing those first. When I started people on a month on enzymes, on microbiome. I hope microbiome is available in Australia. I think it is.
Yes.
Microbiome, ultimate enzymes, nightly essence. These are powerful, powerful products. And people think of them just for digestion. It's not true. Enzymes do all the work in the body. We need vitamins and minerals as cofactors for enzymes. So if you don't have enzymes, the nutrients might not work. If you don't have enzymes, you might still have a digestion problem. We need the 90 essential nutrients to support the organs that create enzymes, but part of the problem here for the average person is not just the lack of nutrients, it's also the lack of enzymes in their foods. So when we talk about processed foods and getting off of them, we're pushing them towards a diet that has more enzymes in it. So that could be working with the 90 essential nutrients. I just wanted you guys to know that. We do produce less enzymes as we get older, and they're incredibly important for me, not just for older people, but for younger people as well. Starting almost everyone on the enzymes before they even get the 90 essential nutrients, because I want them to absorb the nutrients. And of course, processed foods can cause digestion problems, right? Especially the gluten, the carbonated drinks with meals. And if you have a digestion problem, you can't absorb nutrients properly. And if you have chronic stomach pain, there's very few things that are worse than chronic stomach pain. And a ton of people are dealing with that. That will cause a mental health problem because you can't do anything. You can't work properly. You can hardly work at all. Good luck enjoying time on the beach with your friends if you have a stomach ache. And poor digestion can directly cause deficiencies as well, right? We know this. We need a strong stomach acid to absorb iron. If you're iron deficient, you could be anemic. We see this all the time. One of the main symptoms of anemia is fatigue and depression, right? Well, there's plenty of iron in the food. No one needs an iron supplement, in my opinion. We don't even make an iron supplement in Youngevity, right? If you read the labels, we have a tiny bit of iron there just to make sure it's a complete formula. But we should be getting our iron from food. So why do we see anemic people? Usually it's because of low stomach acid, where they can't absorb the iron and they can't absorb the cofactors of iron, especially folic acid and B12. And this is probably why B12 deficiency is so rampant as well, because there's tons of B12 in a lot of different foods, especially meats, right? Veganism is no longer in vogue. If anything, carnivorism is in vogue right now. So lots of people are eating tons of meat, tons of butter and eggs, and many of them are still anemic and still B12 deficient. That's a stomach acid problem. So poor digestion can cause those. And of course, poor digestion basically means a lack of probiotics as well. Your probiotics in your intestines recycle B vitamins for you. So you could be eating plenty of B vitamins, but we actually need even more than that. We need a ton of B vitamins constantly. For almost every cellular function needs B vitamins, especially in our energy production. And of course, depression is well associated with fatigue, and people have been arguing for years, is it the fatigue that causes the depression or the depression that causes the fatigue? And here, I don't think it matters, chicken or egg. We know that we need B vitamins particularly, as well as many of the other of the 90 essential nutrients to actually have energy in the first place. Literally, without B vitamins, our cells cannot produce energy. And we need magnesium and zinc. They activate tons of enzymes too, and all that is involved in our cellular metabolism. And if you're fatigued, again, you can't really do much of anything. Brain's hardly even working. So poor digestion absolutely is part of the normal picture when it comes to poor mental health. And I definitely had poor digestion too. All those other things I did to try and help my mental health, going outside, getting sunlight, spending time with friends, getting sober, going to church, none of that fixed my digestion at all, right? This is all up to you and taking responsibility. And what you eat and what you take, because there's many things we can take to aid our digestion. And when you do normalize digestion, that's typically the key for practically any healing. You'll hear other people say too that most disease is rooted in digestion, because you can't fix a deficiency if your digestion is off, or it's very difficult to. And other things on the list here, poor sleep, big one, big one. I think this is one of the reasons why everybody is saying that Generation Z is the most depressed. I would blame screens and lack of sleep. Because of course the screens, the blue light. I know we've gotten a little bit off of nutrition here, but this is part of the picture if we're trying to help people get healthy. Mm-hmm. I work on the screen, right? I run the business on the screen. I make money on the screen. I make friends on the screen. I met my wife on the screen. But it still hurts me. Right. And I have to recognize that it hurts me. I have to limit my time on it, or else the biggest thing that it will interfere with is sleep. And we do actually have a number of sleep products. And even though my sleep is healthy now, because my insomnia was fixed from the 90 essential nutrients, now that I practically live on the screen, I actually still use those products. Because even though I feel I can get to sleep on time, the melatonin is incredibly important. We're not going to go fully into this, but if we're on screens late at night and we're, under fluorescent lights and all this stuff, it's very, very easy to mess with our melatonin. And I used to think that we don't need to take melatonin because we make it ourselves, but this is the problem. Most of us have interfered with this. And if you don't get a proper good night's sleep, all the nutrients in the world might not fix your pain or your metabolism or your hormone problem. Because melatonin really, really is key to our setting up our whole circadian rhythm, which makes our other hormones function properly. So I actually do think it's a great idea to continue to use melatonin. It's also a powerful antioxidant as well. And again, this is a change in opinion. I don't like to do everything with supplements if I can manage that. But in this case, especially in my own life, I do work late. I work long hours, and it's very, very hard to avoid the artificial lights. So it helps normalize my sleep. Even though I don't have a problem getting to sleep, I feel better on it. And yeah, just as part of the picture here, young people and older people, we're all messing with our sleep. Most of us, not all of us, most of us are messing with our sleep. And that is going to have dramatic repercussions for our physical health, our blood sugar, our hormones, and our mood. So it has to be said. You can't leave that off the list. We gotta sleep. And there are some ways we can help our sleep, not just with melatonin, but especially with our mineral products. And if I did that same thing with my cheat sheet and typed in insomnia, a whole bunch of nutrients are also going to come up. B vitamins are going to come. It's not just calcium and magnesium. Lots of nutrients are going to come up. So we do need those nutrients to have a healthy sleep, and we can help it even more if we need to with some sleep aids that are non-pharmaceutical and non-toxic. And I've spoken about half an hour, but I've got a couple of things left to mention. Pharmaceuticals and alcohol. You can just pop in pharmaceuticals that cause depression into Google. I did this earlier. Huge list of them. Corticosteroids, anticonvulsants, opioids, hormonal contraception or birth control. Birth control depletes practically all the nutrients, at least all the most important ones. All the B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, all that stuff. I imagine many of you in the room are not on birth control, but hey, this is something that more people need to be aware of. It's one of the biggest things that can interfere with our nutrients. Beta blockers, statin drugs, proton pump inhibitors. Those are drugs that lower stomach acid. Already talked about stomach acid. You can't absorb nutrients properly. Not most of them, but many of them you can't absorb properly. You can't digest food properly, cause a digestion problem, which causes more deficiencies. It can be a vicious cycle. Antidepressants can cause depression. Isn't that amazing? Right? I tried every antidepressant too. All the ones they would give me, antidepressants, antipsychotics, sleeping pills, all that stuff. None of it helped even a tiny bit. And I didn't know that it was also depleting more nutrients, and it can cause depression itself. A bit crazy to me. Bit crazy to me. And I actually forgot to mention too, I was also just looking up, I like just Googling things and seeing what's just available on Google, because I have this huge archive of studies and stuff, but I like to see what's new and I like to see what the average person has access to. So I just typed in gluten-free diet and depression. What do you know? Tons comes up. Apparently everyone's talking about this and I didn't even know. So we talk a lot about this. Hey, well, now there's actual research that anybody can find that says going gluten-free can help your mental health, can help your depression. I typed in probiotics and depression. Tons came up. A lot of this stuff is brand new. 2023, 2023, 2016 here, 2021. Tons of stuff about probiotics and depression, even mainstream. This is what's wild about a lot of the stuff I'm talking about here today. Normally, the alternative and mainstream worlds don't agree 100% here, but a lot of this stuff, it looks like the mainstream world is in agreement with this. Screens definitely contribute to depression. Everybody agrees on that. Probiotics, this is National Institutes of Health, this is PubMed, this is mainstream stuff here that's saying probiotics can help with depression. And even the gluten, those were mainstream outlets. This is not fringe alternative stuff here. This is mainstream institutions. It's pretty awesome to see all this coming out now. And again, a lot of this is brand new, but it's not brand new. It's just catching on now.
And the fact that all the big pharmaceutical companies are buying out all the vitamin companies because it is been trending, and so they're getting their claws into it. So of course, you're seeing more and more commercials about vitamins and minerals because now they've got their hands on it. So that's why it's so important for us to talk about what separates us from all the other vitamins and minerals out there.
And I think that's a good point to jump on, because that was actually my list is finished there. There's some other things like EMF and parasites, but honestly, even our regular program has an effect on that as well. By the way, most parasites are killed if you drop them into a strong stomach acid. They can't survive it. So it's our number one mode of protection there. Yeah, what makes us different from the pharmaceutical companies that are very well equipped to mass market and mass produce vitamins? Well, the first thing is you'll never see anything in your grocery store or health food store that has all 90 essential nutrients in it. I've pitched this to health food stores. Some of them were honest enough to say, if I sold a product with 90 nutrients in it, or 88, let's say, at least a couple of our products have 88. They don't have the omegas in it, but just one product that has almost all the essential nutrients in it. They said to me, I'd go out of business if I sold this. People need to come in and buy vitamin C and vitamin D and vitamin A and vitamin B1 and calcium, magnesium. They need to buy all this separate. They need to fill up their shopping cart or the store goes out of business. And of course, that's what you see. If you go to any grocery store, you go to any health food store, the vast majority of the products are individually packaged, and that's not very efficient. And when you start looking at the doses and compare them to the doses in any of our normal products like Tangy Tangerine, the doses don't compare. Dose matters. Deficiency is a big problem, not just for the whole spread of nutrients, but for the dose. We're not getting enough dose. We get results largely on the dose. So that matters. Quality also matters. If you can buy a supplement for $5, it's probably not very good quality. In many cases, some cases you could buy like, a single enzyme product or something for not very much money, but we need the whole package to really get the results. We see people all the time who are on 20 different products or more, and they've gone to a naturopath and they've left with a shopping cart full of stuff, and it was not cheap, and they're still way short of the 90 essential nutrients. And you can look for it. There is no other company that has the 90. We're actually the only game in town here. It's true. We in that regard, we don't actually have any competition. We have competition with marketing. There's companies that are really great at marketing. They got all the influencers pushing it and stuff. You read the label and you look at the price and you say, wow, this just doesn't compare at all. And that's saying nothing of the quality. That's saying nothing of how well it works. I've seen other products that compare very closely to our bone and joint product, OsteoFX, on the label, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I tell customers, you can try that one if you want, but when you still have back pain next month, I'll be here. We can talk about it. And this is what it is. We already said it. We're the end of the line for a lot of people. And it's not because they only listen to doctors forever. They've tried the natural stuff. They've tried the vitamins. They have a cupboard full of vitamins. I do Zoom calls with people just to go through their cupboards and see, you know, what they can finish off and what they can throw in the garbage. And it amazes me. Some people have tried 60 different products, literally a whole cupboard full of products, and they still have fibromyalgia, they still have diabetes, they still have arthritis and blood pressure problems and whatever it is. So what separates us is we are the only ones who even attempt to package all 90 essential nutrients in a way that is convenient, because it is convenient. We can do it in 2 or 3 products to get all 90 essential nutrients. And yeah, we got all kinds of add-ons, but honestly, the core works very, very well. I'm sure many people in the room know that. The core works very well. I tell my distributors often, you know, because they're like, well, do we use the brain and heart pack? Do we use the blood sugar pack? Do we use this? The core works very well. You actually don't need to think about it that much. If they don't get a result in the first couple of months, we're going to be surprised, and then maybe we can use some add-ons. I know Dr. Wallach likes to use a lot of add-ons, but for me, I usually just use the core. I start with their digestion, the digestion products, tell them to focus on getting off the bad foods that first month, throw the 90 at them, and basically any combination, I expect a good result on the second month at least. And often it's usually on the first month. And I know I'm almost out of time here, but let me throw in something funny you guys might find. If you guys don't know about these digestion products that we have, very often, since I start almost everyone on a digestion program, very often they get the result on the first month. And you might not expect it, like arthritis or something. Like I thought it was a mineral deficiency. Very often they get the result and they just don't want to get off the digestion products. And I'm looking at their orders like, do you buy the digestion products again? Yeah, I feel amazing. Fixed my problem. They didn't even get on the 90 essential nutrients yet. So when we have this comprehensive approach, and we are one of the only companies I've ever seen, by the way, who actually attempts to coach people on their food. When we do have this comprehensive approach, often we get the results even without the full doses, without the full products. And when they do finally get onto it, they feel even better. But if you didn't know how powerful this program was, I challenge you to try something else. I promise you'll see nowhere near it as good results. And people try all kinds of diets too, right? I'm almost done here. People try almost all kinds of diets too. They try vegan, they try keto, they try carnivore. This is why diets keep coming. They don't stop. Every year there's a new diet. Every year there's a new fad. And many of these people have tried every diet under the sun, and they still have a problem because there's not enough nutrients in the food. So when people are looking for these answers, many times we're the only one that have these answers. The whole answer, not the, oh, just take calcium and magnesium, or just take probiotics, or just take B vitamins. It's all of it. And when you do all of it together and you join this community, your life can change, especially your mental health. We're going to wrap it back into that bow. It certainly has for me.
Well, that has been incredibly inspiring. Everybody's That was wonderful, Ryan. I really appreciate you giving us your time and attention and wisdom. You're so young with so much knowledge and experience, and you've really done the hard yards. You've gone out there and you've done this on your own, and you are now influencing so many people. I see the other Wallach Warriors distributors you have. You're inspiring a younger generation of lifting men up to be wise and to carry the next generation of people. So I really appreciate that. Would anybody have any questions they would like to have for Ryan? Does anyone have a question? Okay, Grant's got a statement. Go on, Grant.
Ryan, I've been one of your followers for quite some time. It's quite an honour to meet you for the first time. I've listened to you heaps. As I drive around, I listen to you all the time. I recognised your voice before I recognised your face. Thank you. I haven't got a question really, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Grant.
And you can find Grant, he's got a Facebook group called Warrior Immune System. And he is a dedicated Wallach warrior as well, sharing and showcasing the knowledge that he has. And he has amazing profile of PDFs on nutrition. So we got some great Wallach warriors out there. Yes, Harry?
I'd like to ask a question. Mainly, how do you deal with people who are on mental, anyway, drugs and medication, and they need to come off? I've got a friend I've been talking to now for 7 years, and it's very hard to even get him to go away spring water. And he keeps telling me he's following this doctor or that doctor, and he's listening to all this stuff in the world, and I keep giving him, I think, the funnel, giving him the shortcut to get the best results, but he doesn't still want to listen. And he's still suffering. So I keep suggesting he should talk to his doctor, change his psychiatrist, change his psychologist, maybe just do something different, get in the sun. He's up all night, he's in front of the screen all night. He's got a problem with sexual issues as well, partner issues and things like that. So he's in a bad way, but I'd still like to help him. I've never walked away from him.
Well, you can show him this recording.
Yeah.
Starting with information is always best, by the way. This is how we always did it. I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and we used to walk around with CDs. I would look for hunchback people and people in wheelchairs in the grocery store because I had those bone and joint problem. I was a cripple when I was a kid, right? So those are the people I would pick on because that was my problem. That was my niche. I'd give them a CD. Say, listen to the CD. I think it can help you. I'm coming over on Thursday to pick it up from you. What's your phone number? If they won't watch the information in whatever form, now we have YouTube videos. At one point, we graduated to USB sticks and did the same thing. If they won't watch or listen to a 1-hour presentation, or in this case, within the first 20 minutes, I talked, I think, enough to get the point across. If they won't spend 20, 60 minutes, then they're probably not going to do anything else, right? And people come to us all the time asking about somebody else. My aunt has cancer. My husband has arthritis. And I say, you got to show the husband something. You trust us, right? You trust us because you saw the information. They're not going to trust us until they see the information, most likely. And most of us can't really tell our friends and family anything. It's a weird thing. It doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter if you got doctor beside your name. They got to hear it from somebody else. So it is always best to start with information. When it comes to drugs, remember, we're never allowed to tell anybody what to do about drugs. That's illegal. Here in America, I could go to jail for that. That's practicing medicine without a license. So it's always their decision. But we can talk about it. We're allowed to talk about it. I took antidepressants. And I know, everybody knows, everybody agrees that it's safest to wean them anyways. It is safest to wean them. There are withdrawal concerns. So slowly weaning them off. The drugs aren't actually the problem. They have to wean themselves off, by the way. We're not the ones weaning them. We do recommend work with your doctor, whatever drug you're on. Let them know. By the way, when you start going gluten-free and all this stuff, you start absorbing more of the drugs, right? It's a good idea to let your doctor know. Let them monitor your progress because you should start to feel better on the program regardless. Antidepressants are not going to interfere with nutrients, not that much. A little bit. They will deplete them and stuff. But when you start pumping in more, we're putting in big doses here, right? So we do expect that to overcome the negative effect from the drug. And I read a list of drugs that interfere with nutrients. But even if you're on beta blockers, putting in the nutrients should overcome that. It shouldn't fundamentally interfere with the program. There's only a couple of drugs that fundamentally interfere, by the way. That's stomach acid lowering drugs, because you can't absorb nutrients if you're on those, and statin drugs, because it physically stops you from producing vitamin D and stuff, converting vitamin D. Like, it really interferes with a couple of the main nutrients. It's like taking eggs out of your cake recipe. It's just going to fall flat. We do need all 90 essential nutrients. Antidepressants do drain many of them, but when we put in solid doses, which are in all of our normal products, it should help. And if they actually listen to the message, especially with, what I said earlier, that it's not just nutrients, there are some other things. You clean up your digestion, you get off of processed foods, that will make the difference. Enough of a difference to drastically lower or lessen the withdrawal concerns as well, in my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you. And I have a question, finalize this up. We have a few people here for the first time. Clearly today they're going to walk out incredibly inspired and probably want to move forward. What would be the recommendation you'd say to somebody that's sitting here listening to this today? What steps would you recommend for them to take?
If you haven't gotten off of processed foods and started on the program, then you don't know what you're missing, basically. And you might not feel the difference in a week like I did. And not everybody is that quick. It was a miracle, honestly, that all my pains went away in a week. That's not normal. But if you do give it 3 months, if you do give it 4 months, I made it 4 months, by the way. Dr. Wallach says 90 days, but I put in a month of digestion first. So if you give it 120 days and you don't feel significantly better, I don't know what to tell you. That does not happen very often, honestly. But the good thing about what we do is we are committed to continue helping you. Whoever brought you here in the first place, they're not going to give up on you. And if you stay in touch with them and say, hey, it's been a month, I don't really feel anything. You get on the 90, you still don't feel anything. We can look deeper. There are other possibilities, but that's not normal. Almost everyone. Seriously, I've dealt with thousands of people now. Almost everyone gets a dramatic improvement, especially when they do each of these things. If you just take the nutrients and you wake up to a beer at 7 in the morning and you have a pizza for lunch, it's going to be a little bit harder. If you're on 25 pharmaceutical drugs, it's going to be a little bit harder. But it really is hard to overstate how dramatic it can be by starting the program. And just remember, like we said, it's all encompassing. This is why we talk about foods. This is why we talk about digestion, because we do want you to get a better result. Yep. Even on the business end, you're going to be a better customer if you get a better result. And if you do take this advice and get off of the bad foods that Dr. Wallach talks about, and we do, that'll probably change your life on its own. Honestly, we see this all the time. People message us and say, hey, I lost weight. Hey, my acne's better. Hey, my hair is growing back. They didn't even start the products yet. They just took the food advice and it helped them amazingly. So take this all as one package, and I will be very, very surprised if you don't see a result. And if you happen to not see a result, whoever brought you here should help you figure out what the missing piece is. Because there's always an answer. If there's any last word here, there's always an answer. And as far as I know, we're the only company that's committed to help you finding it. For free, too.
And the best part is our customers become distributors because they can't help that get results, want to stand on the rooftop and share it.
That is why practically everyone is in this business. Nobody comes to mind out of all the distributors that I know that wasn't in a health problem themselves. So this is why we're here.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. Tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find everything that I do on my website. It's spelled notusbooks.org, all one word. You can find all the social media links there. We're most active on TikTok. I'm sorry. We're most active on Instagram. We're just becoming active on TikTok. We're on Facebook as well. YouTube, I've got a podcast. As you mentioned, Tracy, I've got books. I've got free versions of all of my books, audiobook, video version. You can find all of that, everything on my website, notusbooks.org.
Notusbooks.org. Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you're doing. I'll look forward to catching up with you. This recording is going to be uploaded into our Youngevity Down Under YouTube channel. We have our Fighting for Better Health series. And so we'll look forward to be sharing this with everybody. I'll make sure you get a copy then. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Awesome. And next time you can invite me back in person.
Yes. Well, you already have an invite down under, Ryan. That's for sure. Okay. Let's have another conversation about that. You have a good day. Thank you very much. Everybody want to say goodbye?
Thank you, everybody.
And we do have one.
Yeah. How are you, brother? 29 biologically honest. On the computer, yes.
On the computer, biologically.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. You're going to see a few new followers on the Wall of Warriors as well. And I'll definitely tell them about your personal Instagram page where you do book reviews, which you know is my favorite Instagram site that you have that I love to see all your reviews of your books. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great
All right.
day.